Shalom. Let me get straight into this lesson. Spirit jumped on me to go into this movie, The Matrix. It's a very heavy movie. If you never saw the movie, you need to watch it, but the way spiritual lens. So in this movie, this particular scene, Neo, when you go into the word Neo, it means new, was given an option, to take the red pill or the blue pill, right? So um, I'm gonna give you I'm gonna give you the understanding of what that means if you never saw the movie. So this particular scene, give me 1 second. Right here. So let's get into it. It says the red pill. Does the red pill represent? It's spiritual. It says the red pill represents the choice to awaken to the truth, often unpleasant nature of reality as controlled by machines, which this would be controlled by the Edomites. It says blue pill represents the choice to remain in a blissful ignorance within a illusion of the matrix. Well, there you go. So let's get into this information. So when you come into the truth, you have to strip everything that you learn in this natural world. Growing up as a child, a lot of stuff your parents taught you was incorrect. Christianity, because think about it like this: somebody that's still saying the name Jesus and God, they don't know the Most High. They don't know what's going on. And I notice a lot of you Christians and people that talk about Yahweh and Yahweh try to use that name God and Jesus. They're going to show you they don't know the Lord because they don't even know His name. So consider yourself blessed. All right. So westernization, what does this mean? I'm gonna get into some heavy information going into this whole brainwashing and indoctrination that you've been through that you have to come out of. And a lot of our people still, a lot of our women, let me say like that, haul on to the feminism demon. That's a heavy demon on the Jake woman. It says westernization is the process where societies adopt aspects of Western culture. That's Edomite culture. When they say the West, they talking about Edomites. It says including its customs, Salakia, practices, values, and often from Europe, so-called, and North America. These are Edomites. That's what they're trying to say without really saying it. This can involve adapting Western scientific frameworks, Western education systems, Western political structures, Western economic models, Western or even lifestyle choices. That's heavy. Salakia. It says it often occurs through influence or as the result of colonialism. It can be contested process with both positive and negative perceptions. So it's all negative, right? So when you get indoctrinated in this system, right, that's why people don't know the Most High. They don't know His name. The first understanding of knowing someone is knowing their name. So that means everything after that point is all confusion and bugged out. Let's get into this information. So the process of being westernized, and when you westernize, you're a straight demon and you brainwashed and indoctrinated. Number one, how does this process go? We're going to break it all down. It says one, public education system. That's why they made it mandatory for you to have to go to school. And our people get into that snare and they think it's something good because they don't know better. They be like, little Bobby graduated and went to college. They don't understand this. It says origins. The United States education system, especially post-industrial revolution, was modeled to produce obedient workers, not independent thinkers. That's why most of these Americans are dumb. I'm just telling you how it is. They fucking dumb. It says influential figures like John D. Rockefeller, the devil, funded institutions that emphasize conformity over being creative. It says hidden curriculum. Sit in rows, raise your hand, obey the bell, modeled after factory work. Limited focus on financial literacy, critical thinking. So they don't want you to focus on financial literacy. They don't want you to focus on critical thinking or real world power structures. Let's go. Matter of fact, let me get a scripture. Let me get this real quick. So the power structures is what our people have no idea what is going on, right? They don't know who's controlling things. They think the politicians are in control. No. It says Job 9 and 24. This verse suggests that God, Yahweh, allows the wicked to dominate the earth, right? It says dominion of the wicked, dominion, rulership. Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that follow it. So the earth is given into the hand of the Edomites, the wicked, Idumeans, Esau, as they like to say, the J people like to say it that way. It says textbooks often sanitize history, minimum focus on labor movements, imperialism, systematic racism to cultivate nationalism. That's why they make you say the Pledge of Allegiance, man. You know what I'm saying? You pledge into these demonic system. Number two, mass media and entertainment. It says shaping norms and opinions. News. It says 6 major corporations control most of the United States media. Disney, Comcast, News Corp. This creates a controlled range of acceptable narratives. You hear this? Control narrative that you get. News is nothing but propaganda. That's why they give you Fox for the retard, the Republicans, and Democrats. They give you MSNBC to keep that division there, right? It says example. It says war coverage often glorifies intervention without questioning motive or hegemony. Like they went into Iraq. That was a multi-layered thing that they did because Saddam did not want to take the petrodollar. He was going to be trading with the euro, if I'm not mistaken, and they can have that. So they created a narrative, created a lie, like they did in Afghanistan, and they did Gaddafi, so on and so forth, so they can come in these countries and overtake their resources and overthrow the government, right, and take control of put a what's the word I'm looking for? A central bank there, so they can control the people through finance. TV and film, it says promotes consumerism, hyper individualism, and material success as life goals, gender roles, beauty standards, right? Consumerism is identity. It says you are what you buy. Advertisements from the 20th century onward tied personal worth to material goods, and that's what they do, right? So let's go to this one. I really like this one. Debt normalization. It says credit cards, student loans, and mortgages. Remember, mortgage means death pledge. Look it up. Became standard. So they put you under this hypnosis spell to normalize debt to you. You see what I'm saying? Credit cards, they have the all-time credit card debt right now. Student loans, they got record-breaking student loans and mortgages. A lot of people are going to be defaulting on their mortgages because it's a trap anyway. It says people become dependent on the system, less likely to challenge it if they're buried in debt. Boy, that's heavy. That's heavy. Let's keep going. It says politics as theater. So politics is nothing but the WWE, but you don't know that. They make it look real, like wrestling. It says illusion of choice. It says two-party system. Democrats and Republicans often serve the same corporate interests, but present a surface level rivalry. You hear this? That's heavy. Because Jake get into the politics. They make you pick a side. Then if you go look at the lobbyists, they pay both of them off. Example, it says both parties take money from the same Wall Street donors, defense contractors, big pharma, etc. Identity politics. It says real class issues are buried under cultural wars. Keeps the people fighting each other instead of looking up at the system controlling them. Man, this is some heavy information. It says fear as a tool of control. It said post 9, you see what it say, Patriot Act, introduce mass surveillance normalized under security, right? Media-driven panic. It says fear of the T word. Immigrants, that's no coincidence. They let the so-called immigrants come in so they can come in with the control, order out of chaos. Pandemics, you figure that out. And it says, or the other keeps people compliant and divided. Boy, it might take this video down. It says police as a presence. It says law enforcement is often portrayed as heroes while military rise against poor communities. You jakes. It says dissenters and minorities. It says 6, work culture, productivity over humanity, hustle culture, tied personal value to how much you work. It says lack of vacation time, burnout, and toxic competition normalized. It says no safety net. It's heavy. Americans fear job loss due to the lack of health care, housing instability, and no universal basic services, which suppresses protest or rebellion. Let's keep going. Religion, Christianity, boy, that's a hell of a drug. It says religion. It says Christian nationalism used to justify wars. Being a Christian, so you got to think about what they did. They raped, robbed, and killed and destroyed, did genocide in the name of Christianity, your white so-called Jesus. And you Edomites full of shit, right? Because you talk about all this shit about God and this and God that, but you're a devil. It says capitalism and social hierarchies. It says moral distractions. Issues like abortion or same-sex, I ain't even gonna say that word, because that's a weaponized to distract from systemic economic and political issues. Yeah, I ain't gonna go there, but yeah, they use that Mo agenda to entrap you into picking a side so they can keep you more mentally under control and mentally disoriented. It says language engineering. Let's keep going. Let's go. Running out of time. It says psychological manipulation. Edward Bernays, father of public relations, used Freudian psychology to manipulate mass behavior. Example, convince women to smoke by branding cigarettes as torches of freedom. That's that whole feminism movement. Boy, keep going. It says digital surveillance and behavior prediction, data harvesting, Google, Facebook. So they tracking your behaviors. It says track behaviors, preferences, and emotions to predict and shape buying habits, manipulate public opinions, right? It says smartphone addiction, attention spans reduce, critical thinking minimized, constant dopamine hits override deep analysis. They got it all figured out. It says education, obedience, media narrative control, consumerism, distraction, politics, division, fear, compliance, work, exhaustion, technology, addiction. This design keeps people disempowered, divided, distracted, and independent. Yeah. It's heavy, man. So you can screenshot all this, and Lord willing, I can individually break it down, more than this. Hopefully this lesson has been edifying. Call Allah Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shah, Bahashim, Rahak, Kodash. Shalom.